Hey guys, it's Mark again. Thanks for coming over to the channel, watching my video here. Today we're going to go over the Anycubic Photon S beginner's tutorial. So this will be basically, I decided to put together and gather information into one spot that instead of having to go a million different places to find all the relevant information regarding the Anycubic Photon S. So before we get started, I just want to say that I put together a video yesterday and the quality was really bad, so I thought I'd put it together again, and hopefully this is a little bit better. I'm using a different program. Hopefully it's not super crazy fuzzy, but let's get right into this. There's not a lot of information out there. One other disclaimer real fast is that I was going to put all of the links to everything I do here in the description, but apparently you can only put so much. So the links to the tools in the very end of this video I had to take out for space reasons, and so you can find those things, though they're pretty general items and I'll go through them with you online here and show you the links to the different tools you'll need. You can just type them into Amazon. I think one was a Home Depot item, and I'll show you where I pick up most of those tools at. So most of the things in the Photon and the Photon S are very similar. I had problems finding anything that directly applied to the Photon S, and so a lot of this information here I put together and it relates to the Photon, but until you get to the point where you're slicing the files, a lot of this applies to both printers. And so some of the things I'm going to go into today will be the difference between the Anycubic Photon and the Anycubic Photon S, and you can see right here on the screen that this is the GitHub page, and this description here of what they say about the difference is really, I think, a good description of the difference. They break down pretty much all the differences that apply or that are necessary to know here. Today we'll go over Anycubic Photon, some tips and information that were helpful for me, some different sites. Where do I get my STL files? So the sites we go to gather are either free or paid for type STL files, the ones where you want to find everything you're going to print if you're not creating it yourself. For those completely new to 3D printing in a resin format, or DLP format, we will go over the process. Super simplified. I'll just break it down in about 7 or 8 bullet points. And if you want to see more, you can see I have another video on setup and first print, and that kind of runs through the process. I'm also going to throw in here that my top locations for STL files, and some of the people that inspire me to print and that inspired me to get into this kind of hobby, along with the Dungeons and Dragons minis and the neat artwork you can print, and then some actual useful items for your house and such. So and then again, like I said, I'll list some tools out at the end of this that were super helpful that I found on some different websites. Before we get started, one thing, another disclaimer, I'm a beginner at this, and I'm also a beginner at recording videos and all of this stuff, so bear with me. I'm gonna mess up on some of the things, some of the information I give you, and I'm sorry. I don't think any of it will be to the point where it's going to ruin your prints, but I think you'll garner lots of useful information if you stick with me for the next 30 minutes or so. And so let's get right started here. This is the GitHub site here. You can see it right here. All the links for these pages will be all the pages that I have, except for the tools. I'll have links in the description here that you can link to. But this is the GitHub, and here's the difference they're putting right here between the original Photon Classic and the Photon S, which is the printer that I have. Essentially, the difference in hardware, like I said, when you're when you're putting your files together and you're adding supports and you're making them hollow and you're sizing them and all of this, it's very similar for both printers. So a lot of the information that I've put together for you here was from Photon, on the classic Photon, which is where most of the information is. And I put mostly only information in here I thought would apply to both, or I'll state in here, hey, these are the two slicing devices or software programs that I would be using right now to slice your files, and I'm actually not even using the TightUbox, so I think that the Photon workshop that comes with the Photon S is the one we'll be talking about, so a little bit. And so you could see right here the differences. I'm not going to go through them, but you could read through these. The software is different, the slicer is different, the LED is a little different wattage, there's a dual filtration system on it, a couple other really interesting things, but here it is right here, and I'll link to that, and then you can go back and take a real hard look at this. This is a great page as far as build plate trimming, the VAT setup, printing, cleaning, post-processing, troubleshooting. So take a look at this GitHub when you have a chance. This is a great useful tool here. And so next thing I want to talk about is the 3D Print Farm YouTube site right here. So this site is amazing. Let me see real fast here. So Garrett Bertrand over at 3D Print Farm has put together some amazing videos that apply to this printer, or the Photon, not the Photon S, but they apply to both, like I said, for sure. And so he has everything. This resin printing 101 video here was really the one I learned about how to the housekeeping of a resin printer, which everybody said is so messy and smelly and really problematic. But if you've gotten your hands dirty at all in hobbying or any kind of outdoor sports or most anything, most of this is just simply keeping things clean. If you work on cars or you work on any kind of with tools, you always want to keep everything organized and your tools all clean, and that's what this is about. If you have plenty of the alcohol wipes that I use, or just alcohol or something to clean the resin off, and you're wearing the proper safety at all times, the gloves, a face mask if the resin bothers you, I think you should wear it all the time, but I personally don't, because it's not bothering me yet. I think if you use those and you keep everything clean, these videos will help you figure out how to run your printer really well. So go over to 3D Print Farm on YouTube, and I would subscribe. Great site. Garrett's doing an awesome job there. Great videos. Thank you. The next site I want to talk about here is the YouTube site. Angus over at Maker's Muse, he puts out some really good videos. There's a lot of information here about creating. He has like 1 billion printers or something inside of his shop there, and he does one versus one prints, and he does side by sides, and he does great reviews and all kinds of different creative objects that he's been putting out recently, and good stuff about CAD, and there's just lots of stuff he's working on, and he has some really good ones about the Photon in there that apply to for beginner Photon or Photon S printers or hobbyists. So I would get in there, take a look at his video. It's really worth it. And again, he's worth subscribing to and hitting notify so you get the proper notifications when he puts new stuff out, because he puts good stuff out there. So the next thing I want to get into right now is the actual best place, in my opinion, to go for when you have problems with your printer, which I think probably everybody here will at some point. Hopefully not, but I think they will. This site here is the Facebook group. This is a closed group, but they'll let you in right away. And this is the Anycubic Photon DLP printer owners group here. And there's just you put something in there and you need help with something, and they really go above and beyond to help you out. So at the end of this video, we'll talk about how to list your problem in there, and how to ask for help in a proper way that will get you the best response without having to go back and forth on questions back. Oh, well, what kind of printer? Oh, well, what kind of resin? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later in this video towards the end, and I'll give you the tools so you can go in here and feel comfortable either on Facebook or Reddit or wherever you want to go to ask the question you need if you're having a problem with your printer or your prints or any part of the resin process. So love this site. First thing you're going to want to do is join this owners group, the DLP printer owners, and also the second Facebook group that you're going to want to join is the Anycubic Photon public group here. And so this is another site where there's tons of really good people in there that are super helpful, and I think the Facebook sites are really driving some of the technology with the resin printers and really improving the way that people are using them and will be using them in the future. So next thing I want to go over is the Anycubic Photon Reddit page here. And so there's subreddits and some different ones. This is the main Reddit here, is the Anycubic Photon Reddit. Again, all these pages we're going to are linked in here. So the Reddit page has a bunch of really interesting stuff. I mean, right here you can see right off the bat they have the photon resin calibration test here in the middle, which is an interesting thing they're doing right now. The photonsters, where they're giving you a manual print you can put in the bottom of your printer, and you'll print out a block that'll show you exactly what exposure settings you should be using on different resins, which I'm sure everybody here is not going to want to use the transparent green that comes with the Photon from day one for the rest of their life. So when you want to start getting into different resins, you're going to want to look at this, and this will give you an avenue. I'll also show you another tool you can use, a Google Doc that has all of the community's resin suggestions on exposure times. So I'll go into that in a little while here. But the Reddit, the Anycubic Photon Reddit here is it's a good spot to also ask questions if you have them. There's 58 members here, so again, I think the Facebook rooms have a ton of people in there, and you can get 25 comments back on a question you have within 3 hours, so that's where I go first to get information, but I like to read through here and just see what's new. All these pages have tons of great information that'll only make you smarter if you dig into them. So let's move on now. And the next thing we want to take a look at here, if my computer's not frozen, is the GitHub. And this GitHub right here, oh boy, what do we have here? Okay, so this is the general Anycubic Photon docs. So this is the general Anycubic Photon docs information page here. The GitHub is just loaded with firmware, hardware, known issues, photon blueprints. This is more about the Anycubic Photon Classic, not the Anycubic Photon S. But again, most of this applies to both printers. So I would suggest just getting to know this page, getting to know all of the information here, and you'll begin to figure out what applies to what, and they'll put in here also, this does not apply to the new Photon S. So this is a great page to familiarize yourself with. And the link will be in the description. Let's see, the next page here we're going to look at is as I said earlier, okay, so this is the Google Docs. This Google Doc is something that the whole community here has been submitting their exposure settings for different, if you look over here, there's different resins, and then different colors here, or types of resins to the right, and then all the different exposure settings that you're going to go in and change on your slicer when you're getting ready to slice your file. And this is super important because different community members have came in here and said, okay, this works for me on clear for the fun to do clear resin. So you know that somebody has tried this and it's worked for them, or it hasn't worked, and it's really something to just work off of. So you'll get to know that if you're printing with a clear resin, it's going to probably print, the time will be quicker for your exposure settings than, say, a opaque type of a resin or a darker type of a resin. So with that in mind, read through it. Like I said, I'm a super beginner at this, and I haven't started to dig in this. I've actually only ordered my second or third bit of resin recently, and it's the Elego blue, and so I'm going to try that on my next print. So anyways, I'll be looking at this myself a little bit later. So let's keep moving on here. So I want to go into something real fast. Right here, Danny with 3D printed tabletop was probably the reason why I really got into this whole deal, because he I found his video before I even was thinking about getting another printer, and he's printing minis, and his minis he is printing, he went over a bunch of the creators that he's really into in one of his videos, including Miguel Zavala here, Miguel Zavala has put the whole monster manual from Dungeons and Dragons, sculpted them into 3D format, and put them out there for free for everybody, and I'll link to that in a little while here. And for me, that's, being a D&D nerd, that's super exciting for me, because to be able to just go in here, as you can see on this page, and print this guy out, I think I want a paladin or a gnome or a troll or a goblin or whatever, fun to do. You can pick those, pick out his models and print them out and paint them, and you're rocking and rolling. So anyways, Danny's a really good guy, puts out a lot of really interesting videos. A lot of them have to do with the Creality Ender that he uses, which he's like an expert at, or kind of really, really good. But he has some really good applicable videos for everything you're doing with 3D printing. This one, how to ask for 3D printing help. I'm going to go over a shortcut of this video a little bit later in my video, just to break it down into this video, because I want it to be part of this resource, but that's where you want to go to get all the information in detail about what I'm going to get into. He really breaks down how to ask for help on the different Facebook, Reddit, and different sites, so you'll be able to get the right answers that you need. So kudos, Danny. You rock. So let's go into the sites where we get our STL files. These are the, for me, the ones I go to get most of my STL files. Thingiverse here, this is a gold standard as far as anything you want to type into this search engine up here. I don't care what it is, Minecraft, boom. 100 of these things are going to come up that you can print, right? And then you find something that you want, right? I have to have this creeper, boom, click on it, and it'll take you over the page. And then you just download the file. Download the STL file. I'd suggest reading the review, and the review will tell you if it needs some supports and where it needs them. Keep in mind, a lot of this is not for resin type DLP printing. A lot of this applies to FDM as far as the guides, but if an FDM, it gives you a hint if a print is getting real simple, and you'll get to know better down the road if a print looks like and how the geometry of the print is, if you'll need supports or not. So I'm going to be real basic on that. Download the file, play with them. There's a million YouTube videos out there that'll teach you about adding supports to your DLP Photon files. So Angus at Maker's Muse has great videos on that. And so anyways, Thingiverse is an excellent site to find STL files of anything you want. They might have the largest collection, I'm not sure, but it's giant. So let's go to our second site that I like to find files at. My Mini Factory has some really great stuff here. My Mini Factory, as you can see in the categories, there's board games, which is sponsored by Anycubic, so that should tell you right there that you're going to find, amazing, minis. That is one of the reasons I'm here, and probably a lot of you guys. They've got a great collection of free minis, fan art, gadgets and electronics. My absolute favorite place on My Mini Factory is Scan the World, and so I talked about that in one of my last videos, the large print video, but My Mini Factory has gathered people from around the world, and they've actually scanned artwork from museums all over the world. And you can look at by the map here of wherever you're at. That's a really cool function. So if you're in the UK, right, and you can see, okay, well, where did they scan prints at in the UK? I mean, they have 15,000 3D printable scanned sculptures here. So if you look in here, zoom in, right here, what is this? Of course, I zoomed way too far in. But if you take a look here, well, let's just go here because I'm getting a little lag. Big Ben, so just click on it, single object. Somebody scanned Big Ben, right? And so with that, you can click on that object, download the STL file, and run it right through your printer. You're going to have to prepare it, run it through your printer, and you have a copy of Big Ben. So great that they're archiving archiving such a huge amount of artwork throughout the world. Something that excites me. So My Mini Factory, Scan the World. You have to check it out. Amazing. The third place I love to go, and like I said, this is one of the reasons I'm printing, is on Shapeways. And Shapeways is where MZ4250 or Miguel Zavala puts all of his creations at for free. So you can see he's went through all of the modules and Monster Manuals Guide and into a bunch of other games, and now he creates them for his patrons from Patreon, which I suggest contributing to. I contribute myself. He goes and he'll print things that they request for people on his Patreon, which is really cool because, like, I've seen insanely funny things like Garden Gnome, warriors, and just all kinds of different fun things. But if you want to see him actually creating, you can go on Twitch, and he usually runs, he'll put his, while he's sculpting online, 3D sculpting, or creating anyways, he'll put that on, he'll run it on Twitch live feed, and it's really cool. And then he throws it on YouTube on his channel also. So anyways, Shapeways right here, this is where his creations are. Love that. Absolutely love what he's doing for the community here. And then right here here's his Patreon, right here, patreon.com, MZ4250, and then you can become a patron here. Like I said, he's only adding to the greater community of tabletop game players and 3D printing, and kudos to this guy. And a lot of people out there, but loving what he's doing. So next place we're going to go here is we're going to go I'm going to talk about some of the basic software that people are using. We'll go to it. Like I said, I'm a super beginner, but I'll tell you briefly what I use them for. So the first one we want to go to here is Mesh Mixer. These are all free downloads. Mesh Mixer I use to rescale, make larger or shrink my prints. I also use this as the best place I think you can go to hollow out your prints. And so you're going to want to do that because the use of resin is really expensive for one. And if you don't hollow them out and put holes in the bottom and a hole in the top so it flows through, you'll have trapped resin inside of your print that won't harden, right? So this is something that you really want to do and get in the hang of it. And there's an artwork to it. Angus at Maker Muse goes into that. I believe Garrett over at 3D Print Farm goes into it, but Mesh Mixer, love it. Angus has a lot of good videos on Mesh Mixer, the ones I looked at on hollowing and some of the other things. So check him out. Download this, works good. This is all about preparing and adding supports to your models. This software here, this TightUbox here, or TightUbox, is what a lot of people are using now when they've already prepared it. When they've already prepared the, sorry about that, when they prepared their file for slicing, and now they want to get it from the program, the Mesh Mixer or whatever they're using, and they want to get it into a file, into a photon file format that can go on a thumb drive, and the thumb drive can be used, put right into the printer to run it. So a lot of people are using this program. I haven't used it yet. I've played with it, but I haven't actually used it. I'm still using the Photon Workshop software that comes with a printer for slicing once I've prepared them. But I'm hearing rumors that it might be the support might be discontinued on the Photon Workshop. So I'm still waiting to hear back and see somebody validate the rumor, and so we'll go from there. I'll keep you up to speed on the comments in here. The next software here that some people are using, and these are all free softwares, but there's a lot more detailed pay softwares that you can use. I think a lot of this software here, this is Preform. It's on the Formlabs website, and Preform is the one that people are using on the Form 2 and some of the different Formlabs printers. But this also works, this software works really well. If you have files that you think there might be problems in, you could analyze it through their Preform software, and it'll show you if there's problems with that, and it can fix some of those problems also. So it's worth getting into. Maybe some people can put some more videos out on that, explaining kind of how that works in real layman's type, simple type me words, and at a slower pace, so I can pick it up. And anyways, great software there. Blender. This is what a lot of people use for, this was used a whole lot back in the day when I was preparing files for the FDM type printer, and what people are using it for a lot here is to create and model, design, essentially to design 3D files and STL files that you're going to print out. So say you have this for your microphone, this little piece here, right? And it breaks, right? And you can't get them because they're from Yugoslavia and the factory just closed down. Well, if you have a little bit of 3D skill, there's a lot of software out there that you can use to just design and model this out and print it out. And if you're using a harder resin, this might work for you forever on your microphone. So that's essentially what that's about there. Sorry if I dumbed that down a lot. I know it's a lot more intense, but that's what we're using it for, or that's what some people are using it for. And so something else I want to go into real fast. So again, as I said earlier, Danny had that over at 3D Printed Table, had that really good video that broke down how to ask for help on the different Facebook or Reddit or wherever you're looking for help from. Those are the best places in my opinion. So I'm going to simplify this to the extreme here. So let's just go through it real fast, 1 through 8. If I mess up on any of this, it's kind of, your style might be a little different, or you might want to add or take something out of this, but these things will be super helpful. Instead of just saying, hey, my print failed on my second print, and I had blue resin, you know what I mean? These things are going to, then you'll get a million questions back, and probably a online smack. Okay, so anyways, on this is going to give you simple steps of what to add into that little post so then people can come back with relevant, probably the answers that you're looking for. So number one, oh, sorry, here you go. I'm not where I need to be. So number one here, put some detailed pictures in your video of what is happening. It'll be extremely helpful. So pictures or even a little video if you can post it, and let people know what happened and get in detail and show them really right in there, like this is where it went wrong, right? And how long in the process. Maybe it went in 45 minutes or first 5 minutes, or put details in there, pictures. It'll be super helpful. Put the brand, type of resin, and the color you're using. Very important because they all react a little differently and print a little differently. Add your slicer and exposure settings. You can just cut and paste that little area, whatever slicer you're using, and put it right in there. And that's super helpful to let them know, okay, well, maybe add 2 more minutes to the exposure, or another 20, not 2 more minutes, 2 more seconds, or another 20 seconds to your base layers, or 5 more base layers, or whatever it is. That's going to be helpful for them. I put the current climate, or what the temperature is where you're are you in a steamy sauna type laundry room? Are you out in your garage where it's 2 degrees? Put that information in there just real briefly so they have an idea if maybe it's a temperature issue. I'm not sure how relevant that is, but I have to think it's relevant in this type scenario. Put what printer you're running. Are you on the Anycubic Photon, or are you on the Anycubic Photon S? That's super valuable information. Any modifications you've made to your printer that I would just do, not that you think that apply, but in general, any modifications you've done to the printer, I would add in there. And then a detailed list of anything that you've done to try and fix the issue already, like, oh, I changed these settings, or I changed these settings. Document all that. Super helpful to put in there, so your people know what you've actually done, right? So those are going to be helpful. Those are going to be helpful for you just in general, to get that information over. So when people come back to you, they're going to have either really detailed tests for you to do on your printer or your print, or they're going to have the answer a lot of the times and say, hey, have you checked for Z wobble and tighten your bolts here, or whatever it is. Next thing I want to talk about real fast, like I said, is for people that are completely new to this. Let's go over just in general what you're going to do, the steps here for when you actually are going to want to start printing here. And this is just super simplified, but let's go into it. So what I would do is find your print. We'll go over here to Miguel Zavala's creations on. So what you want to do is first you want to find your file. So let's go over here to Shapeways, to Miguel Zavala's page, and you say, you know what, I have to have a lizard fighter. So you just click on that lizard fighter there, and because who doesn't need a lizard folk fighter, right? And click on that one more time, and maybe another time, and possibly a third. Just kidding. So here we go. Here's your lizard folk fighter. You're gonna sign right in. I'm not sure if I'm not signed in right now, and it'll give you a download link, download product, and then you'll just download that file, right? You'll take that file, download it to your desktop as an STL file. Okay, put it in one spot. I like to put a folder together for every project I do and put everything that relates to that project into that folder. So put your STL file in there. Then you're going to import that file into your program that you choose to prepare it. So again, the program that I choose normally to prepare my files is going to be Mesh Mixer. And so I'll just start that up real fast here. And so Mesh Mixer, again, you're going to be able to change the size of that file or that STL print if you want. You're going to be able to hollow it out. You're going to be able to do all those things that you're going to want to do. Edit it, sculpt it. Again, if it's a large file, you're going to want to, or any kind of print on the resin printer, you're going to want to hollow it out 95% of the time, and then add a couple of little holes into it so the resin will leak through and harden better. So here's Mesh Mixer. You're going to import that STL file right here. We're not going to go through the process, but I've showed you where to get Mesh Mixer, and there's great videos online that will run you through this. I think I have one using Mesh Mixer to add some structure to in one of my videos here. And so in the video that we did on the large print, so if you want to look at on my channel at Salinas 3D and find the large print one, it'll show you how to add supports, how to hollow it out, and all of that. So next thing you do is you're going to want to export that file once you have it exactly how you want it, and then you're going to import it into whatever program you're using to slice the file, which like I said, I'm using the Photon Workshop file, and then you'll import that as an STL file. You will slice it. Once you have it set on your plate how you'd like it, you'll slice it, and then it'll turn it into a Photon file. You'll take that Photon file, you'll save it into that same folder, and then you'll copy it over to your thumb drive. Don't use the thumb drive that comes with the Photon. It sucks. Throw it in the trash after you remove all the files you need off it for your software. I got this little cheesy thumb drive here it's an Easy Store thumb drive from Best Buy, and I think it was maybe 35 bucks, and it's 20 gigs, 40 gigs, something like that. You'll never fill it up. So also, one thing is when you put those Photon files on there, I like to put them all into a folder on the thumb drive, and then have one file that's actually in the main section on the thumb drive there, or directory, because that file is going to show up as a picture on the front of your Photon, and if you have 100 of them in there, you're going to have to scroll through them to find the one you want. So put one in your main directory, put a folder in there that says files, and put all the rest of them in there. So you'll take that thumb drive out once it's on there to your printer, plug it in. You'll plug your printer in. You'll level your build plate. You'll shake your bottle of resin up, get it nice and shaken up. Pour it in there up to the line. There's a real thin little, almost invisible line that you need to fill it up till, and then import this, find the picture, hit the picture on print, and you're printing. And that's basically the process there that you'll use to print a file on the Anycubic Photon S. Real super basic process, but you can find a lot more information on GitHub about that, the docs, and the process, and everything you'll need to know. If you have any questions, or you think I missed a part of that, please let me know, and then we can go over them. So the next thing I want to go over real fast is some of the tools you're going to need for this process. So this is a messy process. So here's some of the tools that I use. I didn't link to the tools in my description because it just took too much space, but you can find most of these tools on, I put the list of generally the tools you'll need. You'll also need these strainers, which I didn't put. So you'll find most of these tools on Amazon, some of them at Home Depot locally. So these paint strainers, this is for when you clean out your vat, your FET vat, or your resin vat, when you're changing resins out, or after you've used it and you're not going to use it again within 48 hours. Pour this back through these strainers into your bottles, okay? And that will catch any chunks of hardened resin. You don't want those going back and forth through your bottle and into your new FET vat. You don't want it to be compromised. And so one person had told me that they pour everything out of their vat into the bottles, chunks and all, and then when they put it back into their vat for the printer, they pour the bottle through this and strain it into there. I don't do that. I haven't heard anybody else do that, but I thought it was interesting to look at this from a completely different way. Let's see, what else? we'll need here 91% alcohol or better. I use 91%. It really depends on what you can get where you're at. But 91 or up to 99% alcohol, and 91 has worked really well for me so far. I know people are using some other types of stuff in like Australia and New Zealand where it's hard to get alcohol, like spirits and such. But I use the alcohol and it works for me here in California. So next tool you're going to need is, I use these like crazy. So I get the massive pack of these things. These are the alcohol wipes. So they're screen wipes. This is the container that I wanted, and it works great. And I go through probably 4 or 5 of these little packs every time I print something, and it keeps everything nice and clean, and it'll clean all the resin up, and they're good to have. So I'm going to be buying some more of these shortly here. And then there's a lot of other tools you'll need. Needle nose pliers, the flush cut pliers. If you look on 3D Print Farm, you'll find that he has a video on the resin printing 101, and he breaks out a really good list of them. Here's paint trays. I set these under everything I do instead of messing up my workbench. Everything I'm doing on these little clear, $1 paint tray liners, and then I just toss it right in the trash after the paint or after the resin's dried, or I clean it out with some alcohol and put it to the side and use it again, right? And you can use these over and over and over. So great thing to have. On Amazon, I would also suggest for cleaning off supports, like I said, the needle nose pliers and the flush cut pliers. Look up those, and they're side cutters, and so those are super helpful. Let me find this here real fast. Some of the other items you might need. Lint-free towels, great for cleaning off the FEP after you get everything clean with the alcohol. Also great for cleaning the LCD display. Paper towels, you're going to want a million of those. Everything gets a little dirty. Just make sure if you get resin on the paper towels, I like to set it out in the sun the next day and let it get hard before throwing it away. You don't want that wet resin to get on anything. It's very toxic when it's wet, and once it's hardened, it's neutral, or sub-neutral. It's probably not going to hurt anything. Pickle jar. On Amazon, they sell these little plastic pickle jars with a strainer in them. Great for cleaning your prints. You fill it up with alcohol. You set your print in there and you clean it out. Again, 3D Print Farm has a great video that has all of these items on there and breaks down how to deal with the resin. I just wanted these to be in this one spot also. So small squeegees to clean off all of the resin out of your vat when you're cleaning it out. These little small squeegees they use like detail guys at car washes to put tint on and like that. They work really good. I wouldn't use anything hard plastic. It's small rubber squeegees and they work great. Amazon sells them. I think it's like $3 for $4 or something. Like I said before, the side cutters for cutting off all of the plastic on the on your cutting off all of the supports on your models. They work great. And then the last thing is on Amazon, they sell this little solar display. And this thing just kind of spins around, and you set your prints after you want to cure them out in the sun. I set them out there on this thing, and it's just going to be it's just going to simply be a little like turntable that'll turn when it's out in the sun, and your print will keep turning and it'll harden. Keep it out there for about 20 minutes. I like to clean my stuff in alcohol for about 5 minutes with the strainer, turbulently moving it around, getting all the print that hasn't cured finished, and then I like to set it out here in the sun after it's dried off all real good for the night. And so that's really it. There's a ton of other stuff you'll need probably, but as you go through and you research, you'll figure out what you need, what works for you, what doesn't work that I've said. Like I said, I'm a newbie at this. I'm just trying to help everybody have a lot of this information in one spot. Hopefully it gets you to doing what you need, and that's printing a lot faster instead of hunting over the internet in the 600 different spots. So if this was helpful, subscribe to the channel. I have some other videos out there that I think they've been relevant to what's going on with the Anycubic Photon S, and I think in today's video, the Anycubic Photon S beginner's tutorial, I think I was able to put some stuff out there that will be helpful. And like it and comment in here and tell me what I missed and add it into the comments. I'd love to add another little bit of video to this with suggestions from everyone out there. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for joining me. Have a great night and a great weekend. Take care.